Hello everyone and welcome to my Y&R Trends channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The world for a moment had shrunk to the size of a single opulent room. The air thick with the scent of old money and fresh betrayal. It was a space where generations of Newmans and Abbotts had forged legacies, plotted corporate takeovers, and whispered secrets that could shatter lives. Yet none of the confidences ever exchanged within these walls carried the chilling final weight of the one just uttered. The words, "Kill Kyle now," did not echo. They were too heavy, too dense with malevolent intent to bounce off the silk-covered walls or the polished mahogany. Instead, they seemed to sink into the very atmosphere, sucking the oxygen from the room and leaving a vacuum of stunned silence in their wake. Claire, her face a porcelain mask of cold calculation, held the gaze of the man standing before her. A man whose own life had been a tangled web of deception and reluctant service. There was no flicker of madness in her eyes, no hot, impulsive rage that could perhaps be reasoned with or allowed to cool. This was something far more dangerous, a glacial and reasoned decision, the kind made not in the heart's passion but in the soul's deepest, darkest crevices. She had assessed the variable that was Kyle Abbott, calculated the threat he posed to her meticulously laid plans, to her claim on a family she felt entitled to, and had arrived at the only logical conclusion: his eradication. Holden, for his part, felt the floor beneath him tilt, the familiar contours of the room warping as if reality itself were protesting the command. He was not a stranger to the dark underbelly of Genoa City's high society. He had been an instrument of its shadowy machinations before, a pawn moved across a chessboard by players far wealthier and more powerful than himself. But this was different. This was not corporate espionage or a blackmail scheme to secure a business advantage. This was a direct order for murder, a permanent and bloody solution to a problem that, in his mind, still existed in the realm of the solvable. Kyle Abbott was not some anonymous enemy combatant in a corporate war. He was a person, a son, a father, a man whose laughter had once filled this very house. Holden's mind raced, a frantic reel of memories and consequences flashing before his eyes. The look on Summer's face, the sheer devastation in Jack Abbott's eyes when he would inevitably learn of his son's fate, the unending manhunt that would follow, the certain life imprisonment or worse that would be his own reward for carrying out this act. He saw the blood, imagined the lifeless body, and a cold sweat broke out on the back of his neck. "Claire," he began, his voice a hoarse whisper, the protest dying in his throat before it could fully form under her unblinking, imperious gaze. The silence that stretched between them was a tangible thing, a third presence in the room witnessing the irrevocable crossing of a moral Rubicon. Claire finally moved, a slow, deliberate step forward, her heels clicking on the parquet floor like a metronome counting down the seconds to a point of no return. She understood his hesitation, had anticipated it, and was prepared to dismantle it piece by piece. "You think this is a choice, Holden?" she asked, her voice dangerously soft. "This is a necessity. Kyle is a loose thread, and if he is allowed to keep pulling, the entire tapestry of what we have built, of what I am owed, will unravel. He knows too much. He suspects the truth about the forged documents, he's been sniffing around the offshore accounts, and it's only a matter of time before he pieces it all together and goes running to Daddy or, God forbid, to that wife of his." She spat the word wife with a venom that spoke of a deeper, more personal resentment, a jealousy that had festered for years in the dark. "He is a threat to my position in this family, to the inheritance that is rightfully mine. I will not be cast aside again. I will not be the poor relative, the afterthought. Not anymore." Her justification was a twisted symphony of entitlement and paranoia, each word designed to reframe a cold-blooded murder as an act of corporate and familial survival. She then shifted her focus, her eyes narrowing as she targeted Holden's own vulnerabilities. "And let's not pretend you have the luxury of a conscience in this matter," she continued, her tone turning icy. "We are bound by secrets far darker than this one. Or have you forgotten the body we buried, metaphorically and otherwise, after the Newman merger? Your fingerprints are all over that, Holden. Your silence was purchased, and it is a debt that never comes due. If Kyle exposes me, he exposes you. You will go down for crimes that would see you die an old man in a prison cell. This is not just for my future. It is for your freedom." The threat was masterfully delivered, layered with a reminder of their shared, damning history and a clear promise of mutually assured destruction if he failed to comply. She was offering him a path, a brutal and horrific one, but a path nonetheless, that led away from a life behind bars. The alternative, she made clear, was ruin for them both. It was a devil's bargain, and she was holding all the cards. Holden felt the walls of the room closing in, the elegant trappings of the mansion feeling more and more like a gilded cage. Claire's logic was a prison of its own, inescapable and airless. He thought of the money, the immense sums he had been paid for his loyalty, the life of comfort it had afforded him, a life that would vanish in an instant if their past deeds came to light. He thought of the power he wielded in the shadows, a power that was entirely dependent on Claire's continued dominance within the family empire. And he thought, with a sickening lurch in his stomach, of Kyle. Young, passionate, stubborn Kyle, who was guilty of nothing more than being too perceptive, too loyal to his own family to let their potential destruction go unchallenged. In that moment, Holden saw the two paths before him with terrifying clarity. One was stained with the blood of an innocent man, a sin that would haunt him for the rest of his days, but it was a path that promised survival, continued wealth, and the protection of a powerful, if ruthless, ally. The other path was one of principle, of refusing to become a murderer, but it led directly to disgrace, poverty, and a prison cell. It was a choice between his soul and his life, and the sheer brutal unfairness of it threatened to break him. The order, keep the secret, was the final locking mechanism on his fate. It was not a request. It was a command that sealed a pact in blood not yet spilled. By agreeing to silence, by not immediately running to the authorities or to Jack Abbott, he was becoming an accomplice. His inaction would be as culpable as the action itself. He was being ordered to hold this monstrous knowledge inside him, to let it fester and rot, to walk through the world with a smile while knowing that a man was marked for death, and that he was the chosen instrument. He would have to look Kyle in the eye at the next family gathering, shake his hand, make small talk, all the while knowing the death sentence that hung over his head. He would have to bear the weight of the aftermath, the grief, the tears, the frantic police investigations, all while maintaining the perfect facade of ignorance and shared sorrow. The secret would become a cancer, eating him from the inside out. Claire was not just ordering a hit, she was demanding he become a living tomb, a vault for the most terrible truth imaginable. As Holden gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod, the fight draining from his body to be replaced by a leaden sense of dread, the plot was set in motion. The world outside the mansion continued on, blissfully unaware of the darkness that had just been unleashed. At the Abbott cabin, Kyle was likely laughing, playing with his child, arguing with Summer about some domestic triviality, completely ignorant of the target that had been painted on his back. In the corporate offices of Jabot, Jack Abbott might have felt a vague, unplaceable sense of unease, a father's intuition shivering down his spine, but he would dismiss it as stress, the pressure of the latest business rival. The city breathed and pulsed with its own dramas, its own loves and losses, but none so immediate, so terrifyingly final, as the one now coiling its way through the gilded halls of the Newman estate. The shockwaves of Claire's command had not yet begun to radiate outward, but the epicenter was established, and the tremor was inevitable. The following hours for Holden were a study in surreal dissociation. He moved through his duties, his interactions, as if watching himself from a great distance. Every sound, a car door slamming, the phone ringing, made his heart leap into his throat. Was this it? Had the act been done? Had Kyle already been in an accident? He found himself compulsively checking news feeds on his phone, his stomach churning at the thought of seeing Kyle's face flash across the screen as a breaking news story. The normalcy of the world around him felt like a grotesque mockery. How could people be sipping coffee, complaining about traffic, when he was carrying the knowledge of an impending murder? Claire, in stark contrast, was the picture of serene composure. She hosted a lunch, her laughter ringing through the house, a bright, chilling sound that grated on Holden's frayed nerves. She discussed charity galas and stock portfolios, her performance so flawless it was terrifying. It was a stark demonstration of her power, her utter lack of remorse, and the depth of the abyss into which Holden had now been plunged. He was drowning in the horror of what was to come, while she, the architect of it all, floated serenely on the surface. The psychological torture for Holden was only beginning. The when and how of the act now loomed as large as the if. Would it be a staged robbery gone wrong? A car accident with tampered brakes? A poisoning made to look like an illness? His mind, a trained instrument in the art of subterfuge, began to run through the grim possibilities unbidden, each scenario more horrifying than the last. He was now an active participant in the planning, his expertise being conscripted for this most heinous of crimes. Every time his phone buzzed with a message from Claire, a fresh jolt of adrenaline would shoot through him. Was it a location? A time? The final go-ahead? He was living on a knife's edge, his own life suspended in the awful anticipation of ending another's. The secret was already changing him, hollowing him out. He saw the ghost of his future self in the mirror. A haunted man with dead eyes, a walking, talking monument to a terrible secret. The command, "Kill Kyle now," was not a single moment in time, it was an ongoing state of being, a perpetual nightmare from which there was no waking. And as the sun began to set over Genoa City, casting long accusatory shadows, Holden knew that with every passing minute, Kyle Abbott's life was ticking measurably, inexorably, towards its brutal and premature end, and he was powerless, bound by fear and complicity, to stop it. The Young and the Restless spoilers have never been this shocking, and fans are barely catching their breath after the most explosive twist in months. The whispers coming from Genoa City this week are turning into gasps as insiders tease that a chilling phrase has been uttered behind closed doors. "Kill Kyle now." Those words, reportedly spoken by Claire, have ignited speculation that the character's calm and composed facade is about to crack wide open. If the leaks are true, this order isn't just a moment of rage. It's a carefully calculated move meant to protect a secret that could blow the entire Newman-Abbott alliance to pieces. And the person caught in the middle of this storm? None other than Holden, who now carries the unbearable burden of doing Claire's bidding while keeping her terrifying command a secret. For weeks, fans have noticed a subtle shift in Claire's demeanor. What began as redemption, her desperate attempt to prove she's changed after the Jordan debacle, is slipping back into darkness. Those soft-spoken reassurances she's been giving Victoria and Nikki about wanting peace suddenly feel like rehearsed lines. It's as if Claire has been preparing for something far more sinister behind that sweet smile. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that a secret deal or hidden threat has pushed Claire into survival mode. And that's where Holden comes in. He's been her confidant, her unexpected ally, and now, potentially, her accomplice. Holden's connection to Claire has been growing stronger in recent episodes. Viewers have watched him step closer into her orbit, drawn in by her vulnerability and mystery. But the latest spoilers indicate that Claire's manipulative instincts are about to take over again. She's testing Holden, seeing just how far he'll go for her. When she whispered the unthinkable, "Kill Kyle now," the room went silent and Holden froze, realizing he was being asked to cross a line that can never be uncrossed. According to insider reports, this moment is filmed in an incredibly tense cinematic way. Low lighting, a trembling voice, and the sense that the world is about to tilt off its axis. But why Kyle? That's the question that's keeping fans glued to their screens. Kyle Abbott has been walking on thin ice lately, torn between his loyalty to the Abbott family and his own reckless impulses. He's been flirting with danger, getting involved in shady deals, and digging into secrets that were never meant for him to uncover. Spoilers suggest that Kyle may have stumbled upon something connected to Claire, perhaps a piece of evidence, a recording, or even an eyewitness account that ties her to an old crime. If Kyle threatens to expose her, it makes perfect sense that she'd want to silence him before he can speak. But The Young and the Restless has never been a show to take the easy route, and nothing in Genoa City ever unfolds exactly as planned. Holden's reaction to Claire's command could change everything. He's not a killer. Least not yet. The spoilers describe a man torn between fear and morality, standing in the shadow of someone he thought he could trust. When Claire tells him to keep the secret, it's not just about hiding her order, it's about controlling him. It's psychological warfare, and she knows exactly how to pull his strings. Holden's silence becomes her weapon. Every time he looks at Kyle, every time he sees Claire smile like nothing happened, he's going to feel the weight of that secret pressing down on him. Fans are already buzzing online, debating whether Claire truly means for Kyle to die, or if she's bluffing to test Holden's loyalty. Some believe she's spiraling, reverting to her manipulative roots out of fear that her carefully rebuilt life is slipping through her fingers. Others argue that this is part of a larger Newman plot, That Claire is being used as a pawn by someone else who wants Kyle gone for business or revenge reasons. Whatever the truth, the phrase "kill Kyle now" has become the most chilling line in recent memory, setting the stage for a chain reaction that could drag every major family in Genoa City into chaos. And chaos is coming. The look on Claire's face, the silence that follows, and the secret Holden is now forced to carry. All of it points to one of the darkest arcs in the Young and the Restless history. The tension in Genoa City is about to reach its boiling point, and Holden's silence has become the ticking time bomb at the center of it all. After Claire's shocking command, those 3 words that shattered everything he thought he knew about her, Holden has been spiraling. The spoilers hint that he's trying to convince himself that he misunderstood her, that maybe she didn't mean it literally. But the look in her eyes when she said, "Kill Kyle now," leaves no room for confusion. Claire was deadly serious, and that realization is what keeps Holden up at night. He's not just carrying a secret, he's carrying a sentence that could destroy both of them if it ever gets out. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Holden's struggle plays out quietly at first. He avoids Kyle at society, finds excuses to skip meetings, and his hands shake every time Claire's name comes up in conversation. But the guilt is eating him alive. He's a man caught between his conscience and his fear of Claire. The show reportedly uses subtle visual cues, long silent stares, lingering camera shots, and tense background music to make viewers feel the same anxiety Holden does. Every time Kyle walks into a room, Holden sees him as a reminder of the choice he hasn't made yet. Kill or confess. Obey or resist. It's a moral standoff, and neither option ends well. Claire, on the other hand, seems disturbingly calm. Spoilers reveal that she's mastering the art of control again, projecting serenity while chaos brews beneath the surface. Around Victoria, she's the picture of innocence, helping out, smiling, assuring everyone that she's happy to be rebuilding her life. But when she's alone with Holden, the mask slips. She reminds him of his promise, of the danger if he betrays her. In one chilling scene reportedly coming soon, she tells him softly, "You're already in too deep to turn back now." It's not just manipulation, it's domination. Claire is asserting power in a way that mirrors the psychological game she once endured from Jordan, and fans are noticing the eerie symmetry. Has Claire become what she once feared most? Meanwhile, Kyle is completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. He's preoccupied with his own troubles, his strained relationship with Summer, his ongoing battles at Jabot, and the constant shadow of family expectations. But the Young and the Restless spoilers tease that Kyle's curiosity is about to put him in grave danger. He's been poking around trying to uncover inconsistencies in a recent Newman business deal, something that doesn't add up in the paperwork. What he doesn't realize is that this trail could lead directly to Claire. If he exposes the connection, her fragile new identity could collapse overnight. Claire knows it, and that's why she's desperate to eliminate the threat. Holden's inner turmoil reaches a critical point when he finally confronts Claire in private. The spoilers suggest it's one of the most intense exchanges the show has delivered this year. Holden's voice trembles as he asks her why she wants Kyle gone, why she's dragging him into it. Claire doesn't explode. She doesn't shout. She just stares at him and says, "Because if he talks, I lose everything. And you lose me." It's a gut punch moment, emotional blackmail disguised as love. Holden's hesitation becomes her leverage. The more he hesitates, the more she pulls him in, convincing him that the only way to protect her is to follow through with her plan. But here's where things get even more twisted. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Claire's command might not be entirely about Kyle at all. Some insiders claim she's orchestrating a test, a dangerous loyalty game designed to see if Holden will truly obey her no matter the cost. It's psychological manipulation at its finest, and it paints a chilling picture of Claire's mental state. Is she losing control, or has she become a master strategist? Meanwhile, the walls are closing in. Phyllis overhears a fragment of a conversation between Holden and Claire at Crimson Lights, something about keeping it quiet, and no one can ever know. Though she doesn't catch everything, it's enough to raise suspicion. And if there's one thing fans know, it's that Phyllis never lets go once her curiosity is piqued. The spoilers suggest she'll start digging, following breadcrumbs that lead her dangerously close to the truth. The upcoming episodes are set to be a slow burn descent into paranoia. Holden starts seeing Kyle everywhere, at society at the park, even outside his apartment, and he begins imagining the worst. He fears that Kyle already suspects him, that Claire's plan has set him up for disaster. The weight of the secret begins to fracture his sanity, pushing him toward a breaking point. And through it all, Claire maintains that unnerving calmness, reassuring him that everything will work out if he just trusts her. But trust has never been more dangerous. Because in Genoa City, one wrong whisper can turn into a scandal, one secret can unravel a family, and one command, "Kill Kyle now," can destroy lives forever.